What's going on? Publicly, I'm here back with another Epic 7 video, and today we're taking a look at the balance adjustment preview in Epic 7. We usually get a decent amount of units. Let's see what they decided to do this time. So we do have some ML buffs that are going to be incoming. Those are going to include Martial Artist Ken and Twisted Eidolon Kayron, as well as some RGBs and some additional Moonlight 4-star and 3-star units. So let's take a look at the first one here. We got ML Ken, Martial Artist Ken. And, when I first started the game, he was like the most broken unit ever, okay? He had an insane amount of damage. There was really no way to counter him. And then eventually they just nerfed him out of existence. And by nerf, I mean they released units that just completely destroyed him, okay? And so they decided to kind of change and rework his kit. I think they did it maybe like once or twice, and they kind of pushed this effect resistance build on him. And so a lot of people started building him with effect resistance because he would get controlled really easily and then do nothing, right? So pushing effect resistance now, they're going back to the full damage. And I think that, you could still potentially run effect resistance on him. But now he is going to provoke the enemy on turn 1. Well, not necessarily turn 1, but with his S1, he has a 100% chance to provoke. And this is something that he really, really needed, right? Because the enemy could just avoid hitting him. And so the way he works is that if he gets crit, he counters and does big damage to that unit. But there was no way to get that unit to attack you, right? Now he has a provoke, which is going to feed him hits, right? So you're going to want him as tanky as possible. His soul burn now increases damage dealt, and a successful attack always results in a critical hit. So you don't have to worry about building crit on him because now he's always going to crit. They also increase the skill enhancement. They changed this to just damage and effect chance, right? To get that 100% chance to provoke, which I think is great. His Dragon Flame before, like I mentioned, he increased his own effect resistance, but the stats that you needed to build him with effect resistance, he's a bruiser, okay? So he is very, very stat hungry. And even then, when you can build HP, defense, crit damage, attack, effect resistance, right? When you can build all those things, he would just still die, okay? Because it's too much going everywhere. Now they remove that effect resistance and he's getting vigor buff, okay? So he's getting vigor buff, so that gives him innate damage and survivability, right? The only thing though is he only gets it for 3 turns, okay? So after the 3 turns, that vigor is gone and there's no way for him to get it back. So I don't know about that, okay? It'd be nice, maybe it was like on a cooldown, right? He would get vigor after the 3 turns again or something like that, or maybe on a 2-turn cooldown, I don't know, we'll see. When an ally except for the caster suffers a critical hit, counterattack. So this reminds me of like Chu, right? When her S3 is on cooldown and a support gets hit, she has a chance to counterattack. I think this is great for critical hits because now you're countering units that are always going to crit. Like who right now, right? ML Landy. ML Landy is going to crit and she's going to try to avoid hitting him because she's going to take big damage to the face because he always crits, right? And so that's the thing. Now he's going to be able to deal damage even if they're not focusing him down, which I think is really, really great. He is also now penetrating the target's defense by 40%. So he's dealing big damage, right? That's what his main purpose was initially. I'm glad that they're kind of bringing that back. They're also increasing the damage dealt on his AoE S3. That's still the same. A unit that can always crit, deals insane amount of damage when he counters, and he can still counterattack when your support units are getting crit, which I think is great. I think it's going to put him in a slightly better spot. Definitely a unit to look out for in this upcoming season. Twisted Eidolon Kayron. So his thing, I pulled for him, but I never got him. And just based on what I've seen, he's in a horrible spot. Okay, the way that he worked before is when the target has a buff, he would gain fighting spirit. Okay, but now at the end of the enemy's turn, he gains fighting spirit. So it doesn't matter, he's always gaining fighting spirit, which is going to allow him to use up his fighting spirit. His combat readiness also increases, can only be activated once every 3 turns. So that kind of changed a little bit. His Sword of Requiem, this is going to be his big damage dealer. Unleashes the power of demonic sword to attack all enemies before consuming all fighting spirit. So again, before he would never gain his fighting spirit as often, right? Because it was depending on the buffs. Now he's always getting it. And a successful attack inflicts 2,000 additional fixed damage. Okay, so the fixed damage increases proportional to the amount of consumed fighting spirit. So they also increase the damage dealt. So if you haven't gotten one shot by this before, I think you're definitely gonna suffer now to his fighting spirit damage increase. But you know, I don't know if this is gonna put him like as a super meta unit. Still gonna make him a little bit better. I think it'll put him just in a slightly better spot than he was before. Beehoo, one of the emerging units that people try to use to counter ML Landy. Now with him, so the thing with him is that he never activates his S1. So he has like an enhanced attack on his S1, but it's a 50% chance. You have to soul burn in order to activate that that enhanced attack. Now on his turn, it's always going to activate that enhanced attack. So you don't have to soul burn. So what they did is they moved the soul burn for that S1 into his Symphony of Radiance, which is his S3. So if you soul burn, it's 10 souls. It reduces the cooldown by 2 turns of his S3. And this strips, okay, pushes CR and gives himself a 50% CR boost. Okay, so that's pretty good. So we'll see. Hopefully that makes him a little bit more viable against ML Landy, a bit more consistent, right? Eligos. So this unit did come out a little while ago, and you know, at first people were using them, but they kind of stopped. Okay, they kind of stopped because it's very difficult to activate his extra attack. So he was not really good at you know, kind of being in that straight damage dealer or straight like damage support when it came to clear. So now though, they're increasing his damage and they're giving him hit chance. Okay, increased hit chance. So they're pushing him more into the dealing with evasion unit role. Okay, it's very difficult to deal with Savior Aiden, right? Or units that have evasion, mainly Savior Aiden, right? But they're giving him an increased hit chance for 2 turns. Okay, and the increased hit chance is increasing it by 50%. Okay, so his cloak and trigger, it's just gonna give him it's gonna give cleavers a more reliable way to hit evasion units, right? Which is kind of bad for turn 2, but you know, it is what it is. Moon Bunny Dominiel, this 4-star ML unit, when she first came out, most people were using her as a cleave, right? They were running her 300 plus speed, opener, cleave you, and you're dead. But eventually people started using her to try to counter ML Lilius, but people would just play around her because when a unit on the opposing team gets an extra turn, she activates her skill, and it gives barrier to everybody. And I believe it also gives immunity to everybody, at least the barrier. Okay. But the thing is, you can just play around that, like Benimaru, right? He has like an insane damage skill when they use extra attacks. But what happens when you play Benimaru? They just don't do the extra attack. They don't press skills. And so that was kind of her thing. And so now what they did is they're increasing her effect resistance by 10%. So now it's 30%, before it was 20. And then her S1 has a 75% chance now to sleep, which is fine. But the big thing comes in her flow control. So this now dispels all debuffs from all allies and grants skill nullifier once. Okay, so now you don't need Doctor's Back. All right, before you needed Doctor's Back so that if you were debuffed, you could cleanse and then put up the barrier, but then you would just get Opsigged or you would just get a Runkud. Now they're giving you skill nullifier instead, which I think is a lot more useful to try to survive clean, right? And then you're getting a full cleanse, which I think is great. But it can still be played around by not pressing skills. So keep that in mind. Her barrier strength here for divination, which is her S3, got moved to the S3, right? So before it was on her S2 when she would activate from an extra attack, but now they pushed that barrier to her S3, and then now it's increasing proportional to her max health. So they kind of flip-flop those, right? Barrier used to be on her S2, now it's on her S3. Skill nullifier used to be on her S3, now it's on the S2, right? So that way you don't get Opsigged or a Runkud or any other unit that just completely destroys barrier. DJ Bazaar, right? They could just extra attack and then destroy you from the barriers, which was counter to survive that clean. Crescent Moon Rin. So this one, I don't know how I feel about this one because Crescent Moon Rin right now, I use her a lot in Euphine raid, right? Euphine solo raid for the immunity. She's great there, stealing buffs, things of that sort. But now they're kind of pushing her into that cleave role, more PvP. So she did a bunch of random buffs to the caster and random things, right? Before, now they're having her focus on controlling and then potentially activating other units. And so her S1 is a 40% chance to stun now. Before she would give random buffs. Now her Eye Catcher, which attacks the enemy with a lavish dance, steals 2 buffs and gives it to everybody. It also stuns the target for 1 turn. Her Curtain Call crosses rings to attack the enemy, dispelling all of the target's buffs before increasing critical hit damage of all allies for 2 turns. So she's giving everybody crit damage buff. And if she crits, she's going to get an extra turn. So you're going to want to build her with crit chance. She gives everybody crit damage buff. She has potential to stun, steals buffs, right? So can be another unit to look out for when you're getting cleaved, okay? Inferno Khawazu, this unit also started making an emergence, coming back from a while ago, because he started being used to counter ML Landy. And so the way that he works is when he gets hit with an AoE, he activates, gives himself vigor, and then ignores effect resistance, burns you, and then explodes the burns, and you're dead, right? But the problem is that he does not deal enough damage. Right now, I see a lot of people running him on Benimaru's limited artifact, and that seems to give him enough damage. So that's what they're doing here with his buffs. They're giving him a 5% CR push, and when he activates, and they're also giving him additional detonation damage. So they're increasing that. By how much? We have no clue. Is that going to be enough to one-shot tanks, one-shot ML Landy, one-shot, big units like Conquer Lilius, or even Lionheart Sirmia, right? Which are very, very popular units right now in the meta. We have to wait and see. Shadow Knight Pyllis. This is a unit I don't think needed a buff. They're giving her a slight little buff because she is a unit that I've started to see a lot of people using GVG, Guild War battles, to counter ML Landy, right? There's a lot of counters, so you're going to bring her in. She's going to get more value. At the start of the turn, she now recovers health by 5%. So they gave her a 2% bump. She would already recover 3%. Now it's 5%. And when an ally is attacked by a counter attack, it decreases damage, okay? That was already there before, but now it also applies to herself. Before it was except for the caster. So, It's fine. I don't think she really needed it, but now she's going to get a bit more survivability. All right. This is hopefully not the end. You know, maybe we'll get some EEs, some other artifact changes. I don't know. We'll see. Because usually we get artifacts or balance adjustment to artifacts, but this balance adjustment is proposed for September 27th. So let me know your thoughts on this balance update. Who are you most excited about? I think overall is fine. I don't think it's anything game changing. If anything, I think ML Ken is the winner. You know, people have been asking for some type of change for him for a while. I'm glad to see him positioned more for that specific role to counter units that crit. And I'm excited to actually test him out. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hey, think about subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.